dive into as much as we can of chapters 5 through 11. And just as a quick reference, Bhagavad Gita translates to the Song of the Blessed One, or a love song to God, love song to the divine. And so it's kind of many things at once. It is a kind of like handbook for spiritual living, but it's also a poem. It's also a song, basically written to God, and also kind of received in direct transmission through the poet. So starting with chapter 5, we have the yoga of renunciation. And I would say that this is the yoga of releasing attachments. I think the word renunciation is kind of loaded. So we're going to talk about what the Bhagavad Gita is actually referencing, or our interpretation of what the Bhagavad Gita is actually referencing when it speaks of renunciation. So if everyone could open up to chapter 5, I'm going to kind of call on you all to read different sections, different slokas.
That's slightly different.
That's okay. That's okay. And it might be interesting to hear the different translations. It can help us get a better idea of what it's actually saying. So, in the beginning, on the first page, on page 81, Arjuna asks whether the path of renunciation or the path of action is better. Does anyone remember what the path of action is called? Not quite. So it's the title of one of the chapters. Oh no, it's not. It's just called Yoga of Action. It's Karma Yoga. So I have this.
Mine is called Karma Yoga.
Perfect. Yeah. So I actually have this on the back of the sheet that I gave you. I have the different paths that are talked about in the Gita. Okay. So we have Karma Yoga, the path of action. We have Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, which we'll talk about. Raja Yoga, the path of meditation. Sannyasa Yoga, which is this one, the path of renunciation. And Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. Okay, so Arjuna asks, is the path of action or renunciation better? And in the next sloka, Krishna basically says that both paths lead to the same place, but he says yoga is more direct. So I feel like he's saying that karma yoga is the more direct path, but really what I want to point out with this sloka is that, and this is a recurring theme, all paths lead to the same place. And Krishna says this a lot. And another thing that will be made more clear throughout our discussion today is that while there are these different paths, path of renunciation, karma yoga, they're actually very much intermingled. And the further you go down any one path, the more you start to experience all of the paths at once. Krishna even says later that, it might even be in the next couple pages, that for the person who is truly practicing the yoga of action, the yoga of action is basically surrendering the fruits of our actions. Do you remember talking about this before? It's doing our actions for the pure sake of doing them, and surrendering the outcome basically to the divine or to truth or for the greatest outcome of all. And that act in itself is an act of renunciation, because it's releasing your attachment to what you might be desiring. So all this to say that all paths lead to the same place, and within any one path there are elements of all of them. Okay, so let's look at page 82, the top of the page, Sloka 5.3. Would someone read that out loud for us?
The true renunciate, is it renunciate?
Mm-hmm.
As in the person, right?
Yes.
Okay. The true renunciate neither desires things nor avoids them. Indifferent to pleasure and pain, he is easily freed from all bondage.
Awesome. So, what is true renunciation? This was one of the questions that I posed to you all.
I put giving up everything.
And what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think you provided the words that I was looking for, which is releasing attachments
Okay.
to outcomes, to things, to just the present moment, that's all you're in.
Does it mean you have to go live in a cave in the Himalayas?
It might.
Kinda.
It could,
But
right?
I don't
like
have
if
to.
that's your path, right? Like it
If-
totally could, but right.
But that's attaching to an outcome. Like,
That's
oh,
a-
I have to go live in a cave. Well,
It seems
Right.
like it seems like the path of yoga that you're supposed to take is so based on your situation.
Totally.
It doesn't like some because he even doesn't he say this that I forget what chapter that's in, but like if you're a wise yogi you should separate yourself from everyone else. It says
Yeah.
that somewhere in
You
one of the
shouldn't or
chapters I
should?
just read. You should, but I think it's situational because that's not the advice he's giving Arjuna,
Right.
and he's trying to make Arjuna make a wise decision.
Totally. I think it says this somewhere in the introduction that Krishna provides so many options for us. He's like, okay, if you can't do this, then do that. And then we're like, oh my God, but I can't do that. And then he's like, okay, well then do this. So it's like there's always a place for us to go. Yes, I feel like you're wanting to say something.
Yeah, so the question I have is why? Why do we believe this way? And it's because we have that state of true knowledge. I am not the doer. That's how we come to this renunciation,
Yes.
knowing that we're not the doer.
Right.
That's like the ultimate sacrifice, right?
But I
Like,
want to be the doer.
You
Never
need to
works for me.
renunciate.
You need to let go of that.
I know.
attachment.
You have to let go. You have to renunciate
there's
that.
another
But it
Glenn.
it takes the pressure off if you're not the doer.
Yeah.
Then all you have to do is show up. Truly, like there's so
In a state of
much.
worship.
There's so much power in saying like, and this is something that I think is a beautiful practice before teaching, before anything really, especially something that like you're nervous about. And I didn't do this morning because I ran out of time, but like before you show up, be like, okay, like whatever needs to come through, like let it come through. And I just think that that's a nice practice. And I swear to you, when I can remember to do that and like stay in that place, sometimes I say things I'm like, oh my God, that sounded good.
That sounded really good.
Not sure if that didn't come from me.
Boy, do I sound good.
I sound good up in here. Okay. And then, but another thing that I want to point out, true renunciation, we're actually not losing anything because in the act of releasing it, we gain everything that we're actually seeking.
What? Say that again.
Okay. When we let go of our need to control, our desired outcome,
Okay.
when we let that go, we're actually not letting go of anything. Because what we gain from doing that is everything. We gain freedom. We gain the thing that we're actually seeking, because all of our actions, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, they're all motivated by this deep desire to experience peace, love, joy, connection. So when